Ride the Car Guy here, and today we have a fun video doing something a little different with the Xterra. We are doing an upgrade, and that is going to be a rear view camera system. So there's a few different ways you can do rear view cameras in vehicles. You can do an in-dash screen, like in a double-din radio. You can actually get a separate screen, so it's kind of mounted somewhere else. Or you can do what I'm going to do in this video, and that is a rear view mirror screen. So the kit that I bought is an AutoVox system off of Amazon, and it comes in two pieces. You have obviously the camera that goes on the license plate, and then you also have a rear view mirror. And now this rear view mirror has an actual screen in it, and when the screen is not on, it just looks like a mirror, and when the screen is on, obviously you can see the screen and your backup camera feed. So I did this for a few reasons. I'm not ready to upgrade my radio yet, so I don't really want to tear all that out, put a new one in, and I also want to keep an OEM look. So I really don't want to have some third screen or some screen mounted somewhere else in the vehicle that looks kind of aftermarket-y and kind of tacky. So I got a rear view mirror, and it looks very good. It looks just like the mirror that's in the truck right now. And it is a little bit bigger because you have to have a screen on it, but it's not obvious. It's not just some additional thing that's been mounted inside your truck. So the biggest challenge we're going to face, and the biggest challenge you usually face with this type of thing, is we have to find out a way to bring a cable from outside the truck to inside the truck. And generally, when you're working in the engine bay, it's not that big of a deal. There's like probably a dozen holes in the firewall with grommets, and you can kind of just find a way in there. In the rear, that's not so much the case. So we have the option of running the wire underneath the truck towards the front, or finding an entry point in the rear. So let's get started. We're going to find a place to put our wires in, and then we will talk about the wiring requirements, the power in the front, power in the rear that we're going to need to power the screen and the camera, and then we're going to hook it all up. Let's get started. Now, if you bought the kit that I did, which, by the way, if you do want it, just go ahead and click on the links below to the products. You're going to have two different pieces in your camera kit. You're going to have the camera itself, which we're actually going to mount, and then you have this big long connector, all these wires. Now, obviously, this is going to go up to the camera feed, up to the actual monitor, and then here you're plugging in your camera, and then here's your power. Now, the way that this system works is that the screen will automatically turn on when you put your car in reverse, and it knows that because the camera power is on, and what that means is we want to power on our camera every time we put the car in reverse, and the easiest way to do that is to hook it up to your backup lights. So if you put it up to your backup lights, every time that light turns on, it's going to power on your camera. Camera's going to send a signal up to the monitor is going to receive the signal and automatically turn on. So that's how we're going to get our automation part in. So the easiest way to do this, because this wire from the camera is only about 5 feet long, and so we want to make sure that we have enough space, enough length of wire to get it into the truck. So the easiest way to do that, again, just actually install it in place. Don't worry about putting your license plate back on or anything like that, but install it in place, and that way if you can find a way to get this wire into the truck while this is in place, then you don't have to worry about your length, it's already there. So go ahead and install that. Then what we're going to do is find a way to get the wire into the truck, and what I'm thinking is I may run it behind the bumper, behind the bumper quarter, and behind the light. Because behind the light, we have a grommet, where obviously all the wires for the lights go through into the truck. Once it's in the truck, I believe we're going to have to take off this interior panel to get to the wiring, and then we can run it up to the front of the truck. So get started on that. Once I get this installed, I'm going to find a way to get this in, and then I will show you what I did. To make room for the camera cable, I went ahead and just pulled up on the step pad on the back bumper. Then I took a 10mm ratchet and removed the right quarter panel bolts. These are the only two that you need to remove. All we need to do is make room for the cable to fit through the space. We don't actually need to take it off. Then I removed the 2 bolts on the left side of the tail light and then pulled the tail light away from the truck. If you want to remove the tail light, just remove the balls and safely set it aside. Now the goal here is really just to make sure that you have enough space to get this wire through. You're not looking to actually remove a bunch of stuff. You're trying to minimize, right, how much work this is going to take. So yank off the top. Once that's out, just go ahead and feed this through. I'm just going to feed it on the opposite side of my bumper here, and then on the opposite side of my hitch receiver, and now I have it on this side. You'll see, when you're actually looking at it, there's a ton of space back here to get this up here. Now once that's up, you can make sure it's relatively tight. You want to be careful of any edges that are going to be rubbing. Obviously, eventually, over time, if this is shaking and rubbing against sharp edges, you're going to end up killing this. You're going to have to put in a new camera or find a way to rewire it. I'm going to end up just electrical taping the portions that are potentially going to rub, and then I won't have to worry about it. Once you're up here, you can just pull this away with your hand, and you'll see there's a lot of space. Now the goal is, underneath there's a bunch of space, over here there's a bunch of space, but in between it gets a little tight. So you just want to pull it back far enough to get it underneath those screws. Okay. Great. Now you can kind of test if it's pinching just by doing this. Take both sides of it, and if it's fluidly moving, then you're not pinching anything. And you can do it again once you're done screwing the bolts back in. But right now, just make sure it's loose. Perfect. So now that that's in, we have this grommet here. Now this grommet is totally sealed, obviously, but we're going to want to just make a small enough hole just to force this thing through. And once we make that hole and push it through, you can make it real tight, so you're not actually like punching a hole, you're just making a slit. And once you slide it through, the grommet should pinch around this wire tight enough to make it weatherproof enough, okay? So we're going to leave this like this. Now we need to access the back of this grommet, and that's going to involve at least a little bit of removing this back panel, not necessarily the entire panel. So let's do that. Now to gain access to this, we kind of have to take some other stuff out, but luckily one of the really cool things about the Xterra is that it's really easy to take a lot of this stuff out. So grab your tool. If you got the kit that I bought, you're going to have this tool. It's basically a panel remover. Really handy to have. It's actually pretty rigid. I'm actually pretty impressed with this. Usually the tools that come with these types of kits are complete junk, but this one might actually be usable. So take out your cover. That's as easy as unclamping it, pulling it out. And then you can also remove this. This is more for accessibility. Just get your tool and you can go around and pop them up. All right, that comes right out. Set that aside. Now we're going to remove this lower panel. This lower panel just has 4 clips, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the front 2 are actually underneath this cargo tray. And to remove this cargo tray, you have 5 screws. 2 on each side and 1 up by the rear seats. So unscrew those and you'll be able to pull that out as well. Now with that out, you can use the opposite end of your tool, the tool with the teeth. Just slide it underneath here, pop that out, pop that out. These were already popped, so just pop those 2 out and you can remove that tray as well. Another little one you need to pop here is this. Again, just get your tooth in there. You'll see a little hole that it can slide into. Just pull that out. That holds that into the body, so you want to just get that out of there. And then next, it looks like we have, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like this might actually be screwed in with this track. So we can remove this piece. You just screw out with your fingers. And then there's 3 screws here. So remove those 3 screws and we can hopefully at that point, if I don't really see anything else, kind of pop this away from the side of the vehicle so we can actually get to the rear of that grommet. I went ahead and took the 3 screws out, and you'll see that that whole track actually pops up. And that was holding in this entire piece, and first of all, I gotta vacuum this, but that's beside the point. Secondly, you'll see that it really loosens up this whole panel. And then after that, I just took this out. This is just your weather stripping for the rear hatch. I started pulling it away, and one of the good things about doing jobs like this, where you feel like you're tearing apart half your truck, which, you know, it feels like it because we are, but you reveal things like this, and this is actually a bunch of rust that is forming here, and it looks like there was some sort of, I don't know, some sort of issue. It broke through the paint, and I have a lot of corrosion here. So before I put this back on, you know, at some point, I'm just going to sand this down, just spray it real quick with some rust inhibiting paint, and then when I put it back on, I can feel a little bit better about it. So we have all the clips removed, the screws removed. We'll probably want to pop this, this would be what, D pillar? This would be your last pillar. Just pop the bottom part off so we have some space. Okay, there we go. Because these are going to be connected. So we want to make sure that we're not damaging this when we're pulling this off. And then up here, or up this back, you're going to have a bunch of clips. Just use your little fork tool and go through and start popping them out till we have space. Okay, very good. Now we're getting close. I don't really have a whole lot of space. I can't get back here and work. We have additional screws. So you have a bolt up here. You can use either a Phillips head or you can use a ratchet. And let's remove that so we have a little more space. I don't want to put any pressure on here. Not that it looks good, you know, or that we want to maintain, you know, the look of it, but we certainly don't want any cracking. That's what we're trying to avoid. So I'm going to remove that and we'll make a little bit more space for us. Now this next part's going to be a little difficult to see, but what I'm looking to show you is we now have access between this grommet on the outside and this grommet on the inside. You can get your hand back there and just kind of feel it. Now the goal is to make a space in this grommet for that wire, this wire here, to fit through. Once it's through, we're just going to pull this out, kind of pull it out here, and we'll be able to work with it out here. Now to do that, you're just going to take a little box cutter or maybe even, honestly, a small Phillips head screwdriver, just enough to kind of force a hole through this. Now, 2 things. Get your hand behind it and make sure that you're not pushing your blade into wires on the front or the rear. And it's also a really good opportunity to tell you, make sure you take out your negative battery cable when you're doing stuff like this. In case you do, you know, catch some wires and connect the 2 with your blade, you're not electrocuting yourself. So I'm just going to push the blade through here, and I'm just doing it on one of the sides, right? One of the flat sides. Doesn't really matter. Just forcing my blade through, and I'm feeling on the other side, because I'm going really slow, I can feel the blade coming through on my finger, and I know that I made it through. Now you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll push from the back. I made that little hole there. Now, they designed this camera in such a way, and I do appreciate this stuff, that this has basically a female connector. There's no male connectors on this side, meaning there's no pins that you can bend. So I'm just going to go through and just force this through that hole I just made. There we go. So as you can see, I have it through. I'm going to keep pushing until I have it all the way through. And come on now. There we go. Nice. So I have it all the way through, and we want to give it some slack, because the reason for that is you're going to put your light back in. It's going to be up against here. It's going to run down here. You know, you want to have some extra space, especially when you're taking off your license plate to, I don't know, new tags or selling it, whatever. You want to make sure that you have enough slack that you can play around in there. So I don't know if you can see this either. Hopefully you can. Right inside here, the grommet, just by making that little slit, really squeezes around that wire, and you're going to have a relatively watertight seal. I mean, just water dripping down this isn't going to come in, so that's our goal. On the inside, here's our wire on the inside. So now what we need to do is we need to wire up the actual camera to the system, and we're going to do that using our backup light, which is this one here. And these wires on the passenger side of the vehicle, those are red with a blue line and black. I'm assuming the black is the negative. That's not always the case with this type of wiring, but it's relatively safe to assume. I'm going to determine that and make sure that I tell you the right thing. And then we're going to wire up the rest of the camera and bring the wires up to the front. And again, this is probably going to be hard to see, so I apologize in advance, but I want to show you this here. What I ended up using is a Splice Connector. So I already did one of them, but I'll kind of show you this one here. The Splice Connector works, well, it works amazingly. Effectively what it does is you slide the cable that you want to splice into the open end, and then you slide the cable that you want to splice into that other cable in the other end, and you clamp it down. And it's amazing in the sense that you don't have to cut any wires, okay? That's the important part. Especially when you're working on such limited space, it's a huge pain to have to go do that. So I already did the power side, right? The positive. And so the negative side, you literally just slide this in. We'll find the way, we want it this way here. Slide that in, so that's on that side. And then you slide in your negative cable. There we go. And then you literally just squeeze it with some pliers. That's it. So you clamp it shut. Just clamp it. There you go. And that's literally it. So we have spliced into the positive side and the negative side, and we can now reconnect this. I just pulled it off. You don't have to pull it off. It just gives you more space, but this is actually just this right here. So we spliced it in, and now all we have to do is take this is our camera feed, we plug it into the camera side here, and then we just run this wire up to the front of the truck. So let's do that. Now, as far as running this cable, just get creative. I'm not going to show step for step on this, but how I plan to do it is behind this, down the front passenger side on the floorboards, and then run it up basically just down the floorboards up to the passenger side footwell. That's where we're going to end up doing the rest of our connections. So run this wire, get it up to the footwell, and then we will connect the rest. Oh, and also, don't button any of this up yet. There's a setting here for mirroring it, so you have normal and mirrored. We want to make sure that setting is correct, and we want to make sure everything works, right? We want access to all of our connections before we button everything up. Now, in my opinion, that was the hard part, okay? Finding a hole to the back of the truck and getting the wire up here, that's the difficult stuff. The rest should be relatively easy. Running wires on the front of the truck is pretty simple, especially through your headliner. You can literally just kind of gently pull on your headliner and run wires down your A-pillar and then down the actual side into the footwell. So we're actually going to put up the screen now. So the screen is just this. I'm going to pull this out here. So here's our mirror. So this is our rear view mirror, and as you can see, you can't tell there's a screen in it right now, but I assure you there is. So we're going to take off our existing mirror, and to do that, there's a little hole in the back of the mount, and just slide any small, I just have a little Allen wrench, slide any small instrument in there and push down, and literally just pops right off. Now what I'm hoping is that this will actually just slide on our existing one. Let's see. Yes, and it looks like it will. Awesome. So if you get the kit that I bought, you don't have to remount your actual rear view mirror to the windshield. If you need to, you can do that. It's, it just takes a lot longer because you have to glue it and let it sit and, make sure it's strong enough to hold everything up before you put it on. But this particular kit I bought does slide straight on. So in this kit, you have obviously your screen. You have a little cover here. This is nice. This cover here hides your cable that goes up to your headliner. It looks something like this. And then of course you have the rest of the wiring. It needs power and it needs to connect to your camera. Now I'm going to run this cable down the right side, obviously to meet the cables that I put in here, right down in the footwell. And then the power is pretty fantastic. They put in this kit this piece here, and generally speaking, finding a positive cable down here, you have to go get schematics out. You have to feel confident about what you're plugging into, what wires you're cutting. This kind of solves that. This will plug directly into your fuse panel. So if you see here, you have a little connector that looks like a fuse, and it also has a fuse, which is good. So it fuses your screen, and then here is just a butt connector that you connect directly into your positive cable for your screen. And then the negative, obviously, you can find negatives all over your truck. Just plug your negative in wherever you can find it. So really good stuff. Really, really easy as far as how complicated it could end up being. So let's grab our cable, and we'll just set that down here in the footwell. And then let's grab our mirror and put it up. So putting it up is pretty easy. It's literally, you have a little Allen wrench head right here, and so we just slide it on. Well, we're probably going to want to snap this in place as well, I assume. Yes, okay. It does kind of snap on here. Okay. So let me show you that. All right. So the wire, you have a little channel for your wire to sit. So we'll just go ahead and slide that on. Make sure the wire's in the channel. Okay, very good. We'll tighten this down here. Great. So now it's mounted and it's nice and tight. Now we have to deal with this wire. Well, this wire comes with this little protector, this little cover, if you will, and it has teeth that slide underneath your headliner, and then you have another piece that snaps onto the mirror itself. So you want to guide that in. Let's see here. Okay. You want to snap that on and feed that wire through. So we feed the wire through, and then we'll just kind of snap it into place here. There we go. Kind of complicated, but once it's connected, it slides in here, and then it slides up into your headliner. There we go. Nice. So there is our piece that holds and kind of hides the wire, and the rest you just want to pull, and okay, good. So now we basically got it in place. So we have this wire being held up against the windshield with our little guard, and then we have the rest of our cable, which we're going to plug in here. All right, now we just need to run this down this side here. Now this wire is a bit thick, so I'm actually going to remove the handle and run it down and pull away the A-pillar cover so I can kind of safely and securely put this in and not have it hanging out anywhere. All right, so now that that's done, we have all of the wiring that we need down in the footwell. The screen's already up, ready to rock, and all we need to do is connect our power and then connect the video feed, and then that's it. We're going to test it, make sure it's good. Now you can expose your fuse box just by opening up your glove box, and then you have this little cover, just pull it off. And we're just going to look at a few systems here. And we have a few blanks on the left side near the top, so that's probably what we're going to end up using. We'll see very quickly whether or not this is going to be what we call accessory or constant power, but you can use those with your little connector. All right, this little connector right here. So we'll have space up there to put it in. So to make our connections, we have this. This is from our actual screen right here. And then from here, this is the camera in the back. So you'll see two things. You'll see this here. This is just a regular red cable, and this is your video feed. Now you want to be careful because this is actually built to be an option to connect for the camera. So if you have it plugged into the rear, it will be live here as well. So if this is basically if you don't want to find an option in the back, which is your rear brake light, and you want to use it up front, you can. But definitely, if you're connecting it in the rear like we did in this video, cut this, tape it off, make sure it's nice and clean, and you're not going to be rubbing up against anything that's a ground, because then you're going to short out. The video feed's going into video 2 in. And video 1 in is actually, you have the ability to put in a second video feed, and it can be a constant feed. So if you have a DVD player in your truck, or some other video source, a front camera, if you have just like a dash cam or something, and you want to put that feed in here, you have that option. So, but put it in for video 2 for your camera, and then we want to connect our power on the positive side. So we're just going to take that out. There we go. And this piece just comes with a butt connector. So just slide that in. And then pinch. There you go. That's it. Now, additionally, you can either shrink wrap this or tape it. I'm just going to tape it. And then you need to find your ground. And that's going to be the ground for the screen, and then we just test it. So as far as ground is concerned, let's see here. We do have, yes, we do have a ground right here. It's just basically a bolt going straight into the side of the truck. Use that as your ground, and then make sure you clean this up, and then we're going to plug this in, and then we test. Now what I ended up doing was taking out the mirror fuse and using that bay. And I did that for two reasons. First of all, the way this connector is designed is that you're supposed to slave it off of another fuse bay. So basically one that's already in use. So I took out the mirror fuse, and then I plugged it into the first portion of this red wire connector, and then I left the other one in its place, the yellow one, and then I plugged it into the mirrors. The second reason I did that is that I don't have power mirrors. So there was a fuse in there anyways, but hey, it worked out well. I use a bay that I'm not really using anyways, and then you just plug that other piece in, and then you have your positive power. So now let's turn on the truck, plug it in, and let's see if it works. All right, so we're ready to test it. We're just going to throw our key in. All right, so I see we have a little green light here, which is very promising. And then we'll just put it in reverse. And there we go. All right, so there's our screen. And you can see there's all of the parts I need to put back on the truck now, but that's okay. The camera works, and the mirror looks great. I kind of love the way it looks. It looks just like an OEM. And then when we pull it out of reverse, our screen goes away, and we drive off into the sunset. Good stuff. Let's talk real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, so a few quick notes before I sign off here. Now, as far as hiding wires in your truck, now there's 15 ways to do it. You can go above in the headliner, or you can go down below in the kick panels near the carpet. And then you can really route it a bunch of different ways down there. Just kind of get creative, you know, just the goal is to not see the wire. It's not really there's no real science to it, so go ahead and hide those any way that you can. If you want to go through the headliner, it might be easier in some cases. Around the windows, it's particularly easy because you can get your fingers back there and kind of shove it up there. But I like to go on the floorboards mostly because you know, I've ran wires up in headliners and around windows before, and I find that over time, gravity does its thing and vibrations do its thing, and it's just kind of wiggles its way out and just kind of gets annoying. But just my personal opinion, do it however you want to do it. Also, bringing in the wires through any kind of outside barrier. So in this case, we went through the grommet behind the tail light. Just be careful with that stuff. First of all, you're using a blade around wires and you might end up doing damage. But also, avoid actually drilling any holes. You want to avoid that. And if you feel like you need to, that's fine. Just go buy a rubber grommet. They sell rubber grommets. I don't know, Home Depot or maybe an auto shop. But drill it to the proper width and then make sure you get some paint or something on there and then put in your rubber grommet, and then you can feed your wire through that. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. But other than that, it's a relatively easy job. Just putting the camera on the back and getting that wire through is the hardest part. The rest is kind of just guiding the wires in and wiring everything up. And it's especially handy that the kit that I purchased fits right onto the windshield without having to remount the windshield mount, which is a huge pain. So, all right, that's it. Please like and subscribe, and come visit me on my Patreon page. Ride the Car Guy videos are definitely not free to make, and any help that you can give is certainly appreciated. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.